Caleb. Welcome to Who's
Thank
Behind
you.
the Headline. Thank you so much for joining me today.
I'm so excited. Thank you for having me.
I know, I'm so excited to have you here. I feel like when I first met you and I learned about your mission, your initiative, the Closer Look Project, I was so impressed. But I also felt like I felt like it was crazy because I was like, how have I never heard of an idea like this before? It seems like something that you would think of, but the more people that I talk to about this, they're always so amazed every time.
Yeah.
And I think like it's very obvious that you are saving lives by this education. So I'm so excited to dive in and talk about it. But I first wanted to start before the headline, go back before the headline, and ask you, when did you know that you wanted to work in the medical field?
So through high school, I remember in high school, we actually, senior year, we had a senior project. And so with the senior project, of course, you have to like kind of figure out what you want to do. I had no clue. I hadn't even thought about that. I always, as a kid, said I would be a doctor and a lawyer and a saxophone player because those are the three things that I could play saxophone. And then the other two things, everyone expects you to do something like that, right?
Right.
And so senior year project comes around and I'm like, I have no clue. So I decided to do my project on becoming an oncologist, a physician in oncology. And so I shadowed with an oncologist, I did the work, I did the research, found out what I needed to do, and then I shadowed. And oncology was not the space that I wanted to be in, which is really ironic because now I'm in the space of, skin cancer and it's still oncology in a sense. And so shadowed with the oncologist, did not like the vibe. It's really sad. And so, presented that, did well, decided to go into nursing instead.
Okay.
I still, after becoming a nurse, I was missing that provider role. I wanted to be more hands-on in the care of our patients. And so I decided to go to nurse practitioner school instead.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it was a lot of work.
Yes.
Can you talk about that a little bit? Just how much hard work goes into that?
Yeah, so for me, I kind of went in a non-traditional route at first because I applied to nursing school and I did not get accepted.
Okay.
But I did get accepted into a surgical tech program, which put me in the OR, an operating room, for about 2 years or so, maybe a little more than that. And then, of course, still felt that lack of, in-depth care. And so I went to nursing school after that and then worked in the ER. And so, overall, I've had about 7 years of schooling, but my master's degree was partially online, and so that was doable, but still a lot of hard work, a lot of study and research, and so
Definitely.
yeah.
Let's switch now to dermatology. Like, how did you, get involved with doing that, and then kind of transition into your initiative and where that idea came from?
Yeah. So when I was in nurse practitioner school, I had another friend that was also in NP school, and she was dead set on dermatology, dead set on it. And I just never understood why because I hadn't really considered it. But she and I both worked in the emergency room. And in the ER, you have a lot of patients coming in with acute on chronic issues. So what that means is, someone has high blood pressure, and that's a chronic condition, but then they have an acute episode, and so they're in the ER. So we don't get to see that full resolution, full circle moment, and so a lot of times we get a patient in the ER and treat them, and they'd say treat and street. And so you don't get to see the outcome usually. You get them back to a healthy level, and then you send them out. And I was so tired of not seeing the outcome. It was always just, drain, and never get to see the full circle.
Right.
And so I started thinking dermatology would probably be pretty satisfying in that way.
Okay.
And so I reached out to a local dermatology practice and got a rotation there. So I did clinicals there. And that was basically my interview because they hired me.
Amazing.
Yeah. So
I know your mom is a hairdresser,
yes.
and I believe your grandfather had skin cancer.
Yes.
So talk to me a little bit about how instrumental those two aspects of your life were in starting the Closer Look Project.
Yeah. So in practice as a dermatology nurse practitioner, I had a lot of patients coming to me and saying, "Oh, my hairdresser saw this spot. My hairdresser saw this spot. My massage therapist saw this spot," and a lot of personal care professionals as well. And 9 times out of 10, it was cancer. And so in the back of my mind, I always kind of kept that there. I didn't really do much with it. But I started thinking, I bet hairdressers would benefit from a little bit of an education with this. but that's all that it amounted to. So in February of 2025, this year, my grandfather had a spot on his neck that had kind of grown. And so a few weeks later, after some testing and imaging, we found that it was melanoma. And the primary lesion was at the neck area, but it's now metastasized to stage 4. So it's in his bone and some lymph nodes and some organs. So,
and I know that, you know, your grandfather, he didn't get his melanoma, it wasn't identified by a hairdresser.
Right.
But you did mention something to me about your grandfather that has always stuck with me, because I think it's so common for a lot of Americans that they are more likely to go to their hairdresser than they are to go to the doctor. Talk to me a little bit about how that has influenced your initiative.
Yeah, so like you mentioned, my papa he's 76. He's from southern West Virginia. A lot of people in rural America do not have access first to healthcare, and if they do have access, then the providers there are already overworked, and so I think a lot of them probably miss the mark. In terms of maybe not proper communication with an older patient, or maybe they dropped the ball on something that should have been covered but wasn't. And I think that's a whole different issue that we need to address as well. But
we can have a whole other day for that.
But these older patients, if they are leaving your office feeling confused, more confused than they started, then they're not coming back. And my papa was one of those people. He doesn't know what malignancy means. Probably he may, but he knows what cancer is, right? And so I think he's had too many negative experiences like that, where he just hates going to the doctor's office, hates it. But he does not go out of the house without a haircut. Like, he's going to have a haircut before anything else. You will not catch him with the raggedy hair.
Yeah, and there's a lot of men like that. I mean, a lot of women too.
Yeah, but men especially, like you said. But yeah, men and women alike. And especially in those rural areas, you have to think about that.
Yeah.
So, I thought if my papa is going to get a haircut every 6 weeks or less, every 4 weeks probably, then how much could he have benefited if someone had noticed this a year ago, or whenever it popped up?
Or had the education to
be able to know,
to be like, okay, this looks concerning.
Right.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm just so impressed with that. Talk to me a little bit, working as a dermatologist, what does the state of skin cancer look like right now? Maybe, in this area, how often are you seeing patients coming in worried about cancerous spots, and how often are they actually cancerous?
Yeah, when I practice daily, I would probably have, I would see 40 patients a day, 35 to 40 on average. Yeah, and I would say that probably about 10 to 15 of those would have some type of pre or cancerous lesion at any given day.
Wow.
The rates are very high. I'm not sure of the statistics, but I'll tell you that if you are 75 years old and you come into my office, it is rare for you to leave without something. It's rare. And whether that's a pre-cancer spot, which is easy to treat, or it's cancer, it's a rarity for this.
And that event that you had, I remember there was almost every woman there had some type of experience with skin cancer.
Which was strange for me. I didn't expect all these people to raise their hand.
And I think, didn't the one woman say that her hairdresser actually noticed something? So it's amazing. So I believe when you first started this initiative, it was definitely geared more towards hairdressers, but I know it has expanded because there's other professions out there that deal with people close up. So talk to me about some of these other jobs that you would like people to get this education. So,
the career field of personal care professionals, that encompasses a lot of professions that we wouldn't even think of. So hairdressers, of course, estheticians, nail techs, massage therapists, boutique personnel, designers. There's a whole slew of people that can be a part of this. And I was beginning to speak to people and realized they need to be a part of the conversation as well. And so the first person that I spoke to was Meg. She has Meg's Boutique in Radford, Virginia. And, she and I started talking about that, and she said, what an amazing idea. Let's do this. Let's do this together. Yeah. And so from that moment, I realized this needs to expand because there are so many people that can be a part of this conversation and a part of early detection. And so that's how it kind of expanded.
Yeah. And how can these people get educated on this? Say people are watching this and they're in a different state, they're far away, they might not be able to meet up with you, but whether it's going to the Closer Look Project website or just doing their own research, how would you recommend they do that?
Yeah, I mean, there are tons of resources. There are tons, and we'll get into what makes my resource different.
Yeah.
But I never want to gatekeep anything from anyone. And just one of the resources that I've found online, and I've actually talked to some of the creators of it, is the Skinny on Skin certification, and that's with Impact Melanoma, which is one of the largest nonprofits for melanoma prevention out there. So they have a really cool online program that you can do online, and it takes an hour, and that educates a little bit on melanoma and some skin lesions as well. So that's one resource. In terms of how can I be more educated, check out these nonprofits. There's one called F Cancer, which I love. Less Cancer is a nonprofit that's really, really good as well. That's not really skin cancer related. That's mostly all types of cancer. But I mean, there are just endless resources out there.
Yeah, talk to me a little bit about how your research and your information is different.
So a huge difference in the Closer Look Project education portion is that I'm a nurse practitioner in dermatology, and so I know what I need from a referring person. So I need their history. I need to know how long it's been there. I need to know, tons of other things. What's been done to it so far. How did it start? How did it present? What is your family history? And so for a provider to take this approach, I think that it's very important to include what a referring party should have. Right. And so what makes it different is that I talk about how to refer. I am incorporating referral networks. I have one clinic in Logan, West Virginia, that's actually signed with me to become a point clinic for Logan. So that's really, really cool.
That's awesome.
I'm super excited about that.
So exciting.
So they've agreed to see referrals within 6 weeks, and which is amazing. Like if you try to get into a doctor's office, it may be months, and especially in dermatology, it's going to take 6 months, maybe even a year, and these people don't have that time. So it's really, really cool. They're going to be the point clinic, and they will assess the patient. If they can with certainty say this is nothing, then they'll send them on. But if they need to make that referral, they'll do so. And so it kind of just escalates that process for those clients. Yeah. So
I know this isn't your only job doing this. Just like me taking on this podcast on top of our regular everyday job, it's a lot of work. So what has this process been like for you behind the scenes?
So, 3 or 4 months ago is when I started to really take it seriously. I started the project as a study. I wanted to just get a baseline of where hairdressers felt in the way of assessment. And so that's where it started. And so, behind the scenes, some research, checking out resources in this topic, doing some interviews. You were the first person that interviewed me for the news station. Yeah. But past that, I think, I go home a lot and from my full-time job, and I am reading, and I'm working on my website, working on social media, working on documents and my program. So, I mean, there's a lot to it. I wear a lot of hats right now. I'm doing production. I'm doing the social media part. I'm reaching out to people. I'm scheduling meetings. I'm doing interviews. So there's a lot to it. And time management has been one of the biggest challenges for me. Yeah. But I'm starting to kind of learn how to balance it.
And you have social medias too.
I do.
I know you have your TikTok and your Instagram, where you put out a lot of information and education. What has that been like for you, and how can people tune in if they're interested?
Yeah, so I do have a website. I have Instagram. I have TikTok. There is a Facebook page that I just created as well, and that's kind of another faction of the Closer Look Project. It's called Project Connect, and so that's a private forum for anyone who wants to be more educated, or anyone who's dealing with skin cancer, or with a loved one having skin cancer. They can join this forum and kind of get a sense of community. So if anyone wants to check me out, my social media is all linked on the website, the closerlookproject.com. As well as TikTok, Instagram. The username is the same. Yeah. Closer Look Project.
Do you feel like posting on social media has helped you reach a larger audience?
Absolutely.
At all?
Yeah, I think it's really hard to enter a space where there's a lot of nonprofits. There are a lot of other companies that kind of do something similar to me. But for me to enter that space with zero following is hard. Yeah. Yes, it's hard. But something that I've really utilized and done well with is reaching out to notable, reputable people. I back anything that I say, I back it up. I put all the resources to articles and studies in my link tree. So I think having a firm foundation and a good support network has been really helpful too. But yeah, social media has definitely helped, get my name out there a little bit more in the project.
I mean, I am so impressed because I can just tell that you're working so hard at it. You're so passionate about it. Yeah. Like, I'm so impressed how many interviews you've done.
Thank you.
Being someone who doesn't normally do interviews, that's not easy, and yours are so professional. So,
Thank you.
Like, seriously, I just think what you're doing is great. And I know you said, like, there's other nonprofits and other groups doing something similar, but at the same time, I don't know why I feel like you're the first person to think of this and to think about the fact that, these professions like working in a hair salon, having this education, you can actually help save someone's life.
Yeah, and we talked about, and I don't want to ever be a competitor to these other people because they're all in the referral network or in my support network.
Yeah.
But I think where they miss the mark is, there are tons of resources, there are tons of trainings for what skin cancer looks like, but what do you do with that? And that's where I'm coming in. I'm coming in with, this is how we need to have that conversation with your clients. This is how you can have the conversation with empathy and make sure that you're not overstepping your boundary. And then
so
how can you refer them to a provider? Yeah. So, you can tell someone all day long, this is melanoma, but what did they do with that information?
Yeah.
Right. And so I think that's what makes me different from the other organizations.
Yeah. What has been the most fulfilling part of this whole thing for you so far?
So I talked to my papa recently. I went to one of his treatments with him, and he was like, he's a man.
Yeah.
So he shares his emotions, but in a manly way, right?
Yes.
And he said, "You're doing a lot. I see you on Facebook every time I open Facebook." And I was like, "Yeah, I am. I'm working hard for this." And he said, "What's driving you?" And I said, "I started this for you." Like,
wow.
And so for him to say, like, "Oh, I'm proud of you," or like, "This means a lot," like that has really probably been the most gratifying for me.
Yeah. And I think I can feel that. Like, I can feel that you have that driving source behind you.
Yeah.
It doesn't just, that's why I want to do this podcast, because, someone might just see, whether it's an article or see a social media post, but not actually, like, truly understand where that drive and that passion and that hard work comes from. So I really appreciate you sharing that today. Yeah. What is next for the Closer Look project? Is it even fair to ask that right now?
There are some cool things,
okay.
And I can't say names yet, but I can tell you what's in the works. So one really cool thing is that there is a clothing company that I am obsessed with, and the owner and I are in talks about dropping a collaborative bucket hat project, and so it'll. I can't say too much yet, but but that'll be really cool. That'll be very, very cool because the average bucket hat has a UPF of 50, which is the highest you can get, and so that basically means how much UV ray can penetrate and hit the skin.
Right.
And so bucket hats are very, very good for that, especially based on the material that he uses. And so that's something that's very cool that I'm excited about.
That's awesome.
The second thing is I partnered. Personally, the Close Look project isn't really super affiliated with this, but personally, I'm a panelist for a workshop with Less Cancer, which is a pretty reputable nonprofit as well.
Awesome.
That's in September. And then the third thing is that I've a nonprofit reach out to me and has kind of put it out there that they may want me to be a part of their education team as well. Okay. So, I mean, we'll see. There's some cool things that are in the works.
Yeah, some big things in the works. That's really exciting.
Yeah, and I shared with you before we started that I designed my own melanoma reference card for the Closer Look project, and so that is on the website now, and it's available for purchase if anybody wants to purchase those.
Amazing.
So that's pretty cool too.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
And before we go, just one last education really quickly for people. I know, I've talked to you in the past about UPF. Am I saying that correctly? Yep. UPF clothing, and then there's just some clothing that people have in their house just already that helps them protect them from the sun. So any just quick little tips for people?
Yeah, so whenever you think about UPF, you don't want to break the bank, right? And so, always wear a wide brim hat. It doesn't matter what type of hat it is, as long as you're getting some type of shade. The second thing is you think about color of clothing. So, if you ever wore a black item of clothing on a hot day, you probably feel that it's hot, right? But it's because dark colors will absorb heat and UV, and so darker clothing is actually much better for you, and it decreases the amount of UV that can hit your skin.
Wow.
So those are 2 little tips and tricks on how you can save your skin and also not waste too much money.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much.
For
Thank you.
coming here and talking on Who's Behind the Headline. I really appreciate it, and I just can't wait to see where your initiative goes and
Thank you.
all the lives you're able to save.
Me too.
So thank you so much.
Thank you.